Picture this. It's a calm Tuesday morning at my lakefront office. The sun sparkling on the water, birds chirping, everything seemingly perfect. Then, out of nowhere, a group of armed men storms the building, shouting orders and acting like they're real law enforcement. My heart is pounding as I realize they're not real cops. They're sent by my own HOA, fake badges, rifles in hand, trying to intimidate me. And the worst part? I wasn't alone. Inside, a meeting with the FBI was still in progress. Yes, the actual FBI? I know how that sounds like something straight out of a movie, but I promise you, this really happened. One moment, I'm reviewing documents on my desk. The next, chaos erupts in my office. The tension is electric, and I can't help but think, what could possess a homeowners association to go to such extreme lengths? Who really pulls the strings behind these HOA decisions, and how far are they willing to go to make their threats real? As the fake cops move through the office, rifles raised, I can feel the adrenaline kick in. There's confusion, fear, and disbelief all tangled together. The people I work with are frozen, staring at this surreal scene unfolding around us. Meanwhile, the FBI agents are calmly trying to assess the situation, keeping their composure. While I'm silently panicking, how do you explain this? Who do you call when the line between authority and intimidation is completely blurred? What's about to happen next will completely change the way you think about HOAs, personal boundaries, and the lengths some people will go to enforce their version of rules. Trust me, this is not just a story about a fake read-its. A story about power, fear, and the unexpected twists that can come when you least expect them. By the time this introduction ends, the office is a tense powder keg, and I'm left wondering if we'll make it through the day unscathed or if this bizarre showdown is only getting started. Stay with me, because what happens next is something you absolutely won't see coming. If you want, I can also draft a second version that's punchier and more suspense-driven for YouTube retention, keeping it under 350 words, but with even more edge-of-your-seat tension. Do you want me to do that? Before that morning, my relationship with the HOA had already been complicated. It started with small disagreements over property rules, landscaping, and lake access. Nothing out of dumper. The ordinary at first, just the usual tension you hear about in neighborhoods. But over time, it escalated. Notices became threats. Friendly suggestions became ultimatums. And somehow, it turned into this feeling that someone was watching my every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. I never imagined it would come. 2 fake cops showing up at my door, my office itself tells part of the story. It's a small, peaceful spot right on the water, where I've spent countless hours working on projects and meeting with important clients. It's the kind of place you associate with calm mornings and lake views, not the sound of rifles and shouted commands. That contrast made everything even more surreal. One moment, the water was glinting in the sun. The next, it was the backdrop to what felt like a high-stakes standoff. And then there's the FBI's presence, which makes the whole situation even stranger. They weren't there for me personally. They were investigating a separate, unrelated case. But their meeting happening at the same time as the HOA's raid attempt is what turns the story from bizarre to potentially catastrophic. Nobody had anticipated this collision of worlds, and suddenly I was in the middle of something much bigger than I could fully understand. While all this was happening, I couldn't help but notice the expressions on the faces around me. Confusion, disbelief. People who had been calm and collected moments ago were now whispering questions and glancing toward the windows as if expecting more trouble from the HOA or maybe something even worse. Every second felt stretched. Every movement felt loaded with potential danger. Looking back now, there were clues I should have seen, small patterns of intimidation, overly aggressive letters, and oddly specific rules that seemed designed to provoke me. But I ignored them, thinking they were just annoying bureaucracy. I never imagined those small, everyday conflicts would escalate into a situation with armed imposters and federal agents in the same room by the time the first few minutes passed. It was clear this wasn't just about the HOA enforcing rules. Something deeper was at play, and I had no idea how far it would go or if anyone would actually come out unscathed. If you want, I can continue the next 350-word part that dives into the confrontation and heightens the suspense even further, keeping the tension razor-sharp without resolving it. Do you want me to do that? As the fake cops moved deeper into the office, I started noticing little details that didn't add up. Their uniforms were cheap-looking, the badges slightly off-center, and their rifles didn't feel right to light, almost theatrical. But in that moment, with adrenaline surging, those small details barely mattered. My mind was racing, trying to figure out who was behind this and why. Every step they took felt like it could trigger a catastrophe. Meanwhile, FBI agents remained calm, quietly signaling to each other, assessing the situation with precision. I could see the way they scanned the room, noting exits, cover points, and the armed intruders' movements. Their presence added an unexpected layer of tension. Part of me felt relieved. But another part wondered, how did the HOA get so bold as to orchestrate something like this with federal eyes just feet away? It was a question with no clear answer, and that uncertainty gnawed me. At the same time, my team was caught in its own struggle. Some were frozen in fear, while others whispered frantic questions about what to do next. Phones were discreetly out, trying to document the situation or call for help. Every angle felt like a ticking time bomb. And outside, cars had started, pulling up neighbors, curious onlookers, maybe even more players in this bizarre game. The line between threat and bystander blurred with each passing minute. Then there's the HOA, itself a shadowy presence that suddenly felt larger than the handful of people listed on the board. There were hints of personal grudges, past disputes, and even rumors of alliances with local enforcement, though nothing concrete. I began piecing together the bigger picture. This wasn't just about rules or lake access anymore. There were motivations I didn't fully understand, forces maneuvering behind the scenes, and consequences that could spill far beyond my office walls. All the while, the fake cops kept their act up, shouting commands and pointing rifles, trying to assert authority. Yet every second stretched longer, building a pressure that was almost unbearable. Everyone in the room sensed the fragility of the moment. One wrong move, one misstep, and this surreal standoff could erupt into real danger. And just when it seemed like tension couldn't climb any higher, a new development arrived that no one saw coming, something that would make everyone freeze and force me to question everything I thought I knew about who was really in control. If you want, I can continue the next 350-word segment that ramps up the suspense even more, introducing unexpected twists and heightening the stakes without resolving the central conflict. Do you want me to continue? By now, the tension in the office had reached a breaking point. Every movement felt amplified, every sound echoing like a warning. The fake cops were becoming more aggressive, their shouting louder, their rifles sweeping the room as if daring someone to react. My pulse was racing so fast I could feel it in my ears, and every instinct told me to stay low, stay quiet, and hope nothing escalated further. The FBI agents, still calm but clearly on edge, were whispering strategies to each other, signaling that they were ready to intervene if things went south. I could see the intensity in their eyes, the kind of focused energy that comes from knowing a single mistake could have catastrophic consequences. Watching them, I realized how dangerously out of control this situation had become, and yet, somehow, the fake cops didn't notice how fragile their act really was. Around me, my colleagues were holding their breaths, trying to remain composed, but the fear was palpable. Phones were still quietly recording, capturing every moment as evidence, yet it felt like no amount of documentation could protect us if things went wrong. I started thinking about the HOA's motives. Why risk everything just to intimidate me? There were layers to this conflict I still didn't understand. Personal grudges, long-running disputes, and maybe even a need to assert dominance over someone they saw as a threat. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the hallway. The fake cops snapped their attention toward the sound, rifles raising in unison. My stomach dropped. Outside, I could hear the murmurs of neighbors, maybe even local news crews arriving, drawn by the chaos. Every second stretched endlessly, the air thick with anticipation. I could feel the room vibrating with tension, each person waiting for the next move, knowing it could be the one that sets everything off. And then, as if on cue, one of the fake cops made a step that changed everything. Their posture, their tone, their focus hinted at a mistake, a vulnerability that could either save or destroy us. The FBI agents tensed. My team held their collective breath, and I realized we were teetering on the edge of a moment none of us would forget. What happens next could change everything about how I see authority, power, and the people who claim it. The stage is set. The players are in position, and the countdown to the most intense confrontation of my life has